not good,
Yeah, because there's a
but it
process.
takes
Like,
time.
yeah, or even like I guess with the legal stuff going on, or like with the whole police brutality thing, like I feel like I feel like by hyper focusing in an emotional way on the fact that there's police brutality and it's, I guess, targeting African Americans, I feel like to me, the extreme version of what we are currently fighting for is anarchy. And I
Right.
feel like the correct extreme version of what we're fighting for should be actual reform in the police in terms of the candidates they hire, the applicants that come in, the amount of pay they get so that people are like held to a higher standard that go into this career field because it is a career field. It's not like they're all these evil freaking crazy people. Like people just don't understand. Like it's a job. Like we have to understand it's a job, and there's certain things that influence the type of people that might apply to that job. So how do we fix that? Like it's not just about persecuting every cop that's committed a murder, whether it's by accident or whether it was intentional. Yes, that's important. But again, like, is that's just going to lead more officers to not even want to apply to be an officer. So you might even get worse people applying for
Hmm.
these positions because no one's going to want to face the amount of public shame that we're putting on officers for what's going on. So you're going to get worse applicants, and they're not going to change their, you know, application process or, standards or requirements or anything because they're telling everyone to defund the police, take more money out of the police. Like, well, they already don't get paid well, and that's part of what the problem is. Like, so how does that solve anything?
Yeah.
It's just leading to anarchy. And it's like, okay, you think that's the
Uh,
solution? Like, it's not.
Yeah, and it's without research, meaning like to me, it's like you don't work in that. You don't know. Like maybe they are correct and maybe they are not. But are you or have you been a police officer? Maybe. Do you freaking understand how the rules are made? Maybe. But also, if you've ever worked anywhere tying it to business, it's so hard to even get someone. Let's say you're at the top to get the receptionist, to get the person to fill things out correctly, to complete a
Mm-hmm.
background check that is thorough, that somebody cares about, you know? Stuff like that, even at the lowest level, is so hard to complete, even when you work for a grocery store. Like,
Yeah.
how it's much harder, I think, than we
Well, I think
realize.
there's like so much trauma that I think a lot of officers or just people in that field go through that they see, and it becomes normal to them. And to some degree, it's like if, you sitting at home complaining about police brutality would have seen half the shit that they've seen, you might feel different. You might see it a little differently, like hopefully, like with a little more understanding. And I feel like there should be more of a push towards that too, where it's like, do they not have the right help? Do they not Are they not required to see therapists twice a week or something to deal with the trauma they go through? Or are there not enough resources to even support that for police officers? Like there's still people. I feel like people think like, oh, that officer murdered them, they're awful, they're horrible. And it's just like they're just humans. Maybe that was a bad egg. Maybe not all officers are like that, but they still need improvements made in that career field. But like, I don't know. It's just like because you're reacting so sensitively and emotionally about it, it's not productive. It's just like,
Hmm.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how far this goes and like where it's headed because I feel like even when they did the live thing of like the decision for that officer, they had a person that was outside, like I guess a protester or whatever, like someone that was wanting him to be charged for all three. And they asked her like, oh, how do you feel like now that, well, they talked to her before the decision was made, and she was just like half crying, and she was just super passionate, super emotional, and she was just like, oh my gosh, like this is a day for justice, I can't wait, da da da, like, saying really good things. And then the decision was made, and then the guy went back to her and was like, all right, well, how do you feel now that the decision was made? And she was like, oh, I was crying, it was so emotional for me, I can't believe it, da 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 da. Which, like, I understand, but this guy's life is also like screwed forever. Like, you should show some compassion, I guess, for everyone if you are that caring. um but on top of that, she was like, immediately after she said that, she was just like, well, this is the first of many. We have to keep going. There's got to be more of these. Yeah. And then she starts referencing like 6 other people that have died from police brutality that are like a new focus. And I was just like, this has been an ongoing thing forever. People have blown up about it. And now that it's done and it's not trending anymore, it's just like, oh, all right, move on to the next thing. There's a whole plate of them.
That is the thing that I get. I'm like, okay, this happened. He's getting his justice. And then now what? Like, yeah, some people are still posting about it, but I'm like, what is the long term here? Like, that guy is still, yeah, he's gonna spend the rest of his life in jail, which, is crazy. I mean, whatever. I don't know. I think he deserves it because he was on there a long time. But again, I wasn't him. I don't know what the situation was there. There was a video, so I do think that did not help. Whatever story you wanted to spin there. But and then now what though? There's going to be another dude in whatever state and another that's also a cop and it's also still going to be racist. And if he's racist against Asians, are you going to be as mad?
Yeah.
Whatever happened to those Asians? They talked about him for 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not the Asians, the guy that killed all the Asians. I feel like I'm offended. I'm Asian,
Right.
And but it is what it is. Like, I feel like I'm offended not because he killed Asians, but because there's such a huge deal about the other movements.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, I have nothing against anyone in any sort of denomination of anything here, but
yeah,
technically there's a bigger population of Asians than there are trans people.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but you hear about trans way more. Yeah, that's a good point.
But
that's why I just feel like whoever's the loudest and proudest is what we listen to as a country. And I think that's what bothers me the most is like, we're so susceptible to being manipulated and influenced and led to where we don't even know what we truly care about, like what true issues we deeply care about, like because we're just clouded with all the stuff that's already there, like presented to us all the time, that like we don't control our thoughts, like the media controls our thoughts. Whatever we see on our phone is now what our mind is thinking of. Like it's that easy, it's that quick. And we can see a photo, and because it's gruesome or whatever, we're now going to feel like, oh my gosh, this needs to change, this is insane, like immediately. But that's like those freaking old commercials of like, what is it, that Celine Dion song or something, where it's like the animals that are all sad or whatever, and they're like, please donate. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like, I forget the organization, but it's that common commercial. Yes. I feel like that's now like a lot of social media is just like, poor person, oh no, please help. But it's like, we used to make fun of that thing, like that commercial, just being like,
well, maybe that's the bullying
society. They're trying to pull on your emotions, they're trying to manipulate you and get money, who knows where it's actually going, like, you know what I mean? There was a little more skepticism and stuff, and I feel like now there's just so much of it everywhere, and there's such a deep need for people to want to help and like feel a part of something, which I feel like happened a lot more when COVID happened, that they're just jumping on to like whatever makes them feel like that is satisfied. Like, oh, I helped today because I shared this post. Or, oh,
well, I also think, not to downplay the police brutality thing, but so many people were openly just ignoring COVID when more people were technically dying from that than they were from police brutality in the same amount of time. Like, I guess, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you're not going to help try to end this crazy pandemic, but you're going to just voice your opinion about 20 people maybe that have died in the last few years.
Yeah, or even like the police shootings. I feel like a big push was to like try to get rid of guns or change the laws surrounding gun rights. And I feel like that just faded away. But it's like, I guess the root cause to me of a lot of the things that we're sensitive about and like over trending or oversharing is like because we're not looking at the root cause of it. Like we're not actually trying to understand like how to prevent it. Like, yes, we're persecuting the cops that have murdered someone, but how do we prevent them from incorrectly murdering someone? Like, yeah, you can fight and say, oh, this person needs to go to jail and like spend all your waking hours just waiting